Well, he's back. And while the team finally lost in 2026 in his first game back, it's going to happen at some point, but the team did enough in his absence to get them in a position where they were going to be still in the mix. And guess what? They're still in the mix. And, well, I'm interested to see what this team can do before the All-Star/Olympics break. Hey everyone, it's Alex. Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about the most recent week in Hawks hockey. We've got 4 games to go through, so let's jump right into it. And we got another primetime game against the hated St. Louis Blues up first. To embarrass a team like the Blues on a national stage like TNT, not once, but twice this season is very, very satisfying. I'll tell you that much. Because the Hawks have been pretty embarrassed on national television as of late in the last handful of seasons because they've been a bad hockey team. But they still get a good handful of national TV games just from the fact that they play in Chicago. They're the Chicago Blackhawks, original 6. They'll usually draw pretty good numbers regardless of how good or bad the team is. So they're in a fortunate position like that. That number's only going to go up as the team gets better. But they like to put these games they play against the Blues and the Red Wings and other divisional teams on a national stage like this, and they came through in this one. They got it in front of their home fans in the United Center. I love what I saw. It was the only bad thing that happened in this game was the Hawks let up a goal in the first 30 seconds. Otherwise, it was great. I mean, a couple of really inspiring plays from young players for this team in the first half of this game. Nick Lardis wide open. Oliver Moore with a beautiful pass on the power play midway through the first period. Jordan Binnington just does not even try to stop this shot. He just accepts defeat. Nick Lardis puts it home for his 3rd goal of the season. They go into intermission tied 1-1, but it would be in the second period that Oliver Moore and Spencer Knight would get their moments. About 6 minutes into the second period, Jordan Kyrou wrestles off Alex Vlasic, makes a beautiful move to get by Spencer Knight, tries to jam it backhand, and Spencer Knight with the save of the year for the Hawks. I mean, seriously, this puck gets trapped in between the pad and the skate blade for Spencer Knight. That's how close it was. Just a beautiful save from the Hawks goaltender, and it stays tied at 1. That was where the tie to this one shifted, because shortly after, the Hawks would take the lead, something they wouldn't relinquish. And then Oliver Moore gets a chance to get on the score sheet again. He's got so much room on the power play. He takes 2 or 3 strides before shooting this puck, and it's just a nasty wrist shot. 2-1 Hawks. They would surrender a tying goal on a tough angle shot, but a minute after that, it's Connor Murphy, who hasn't scored all season long, has played in virtually every game for the Hawks, putting it on net as he's all alone back in the back half behind the circle in their offensive zone. And Jordan Binnington, what a terrible goal to let up. It hits his pads and squeaks right by him. Connor Murphy hasn't scored a goal all season. That's his first of the year. That is a bad goal to let up if you're Jordan Binnington. How do you let Connor Murphy score on you? That's embarrassing. And that would be the moment that everything changes for the Hawks, because that started a streak of 5 goals in a row for Chicago. And you can tell Connor Murphy is super excited about scoring that one. Dude's been on the team for a long time. He's the longest tenured Blackhawk. First goal of the year. He's been doing his thing. And for it to be at home against St. Louis and to break a tie, I'm pretty sure he's pretty pumped about that. And the team was too, because by God, did they just steamroll this Blues team for the rest of the game. They'd scored 2 more goals in the second period, one off of a redirection off a Colton Dock shot by Landon Slager, just his 2nd goal of the season. And then late in the period, it's Jason Dickinson with a tip-in. And the Hawks lead 5-2. Going into the second intermission, this game is over. To add insult to injury on a 5-on-3, it's Ryan Green to Andre Burakovsky. Boom! Right by Binnington. 6-2 Chicago. And, well, that's it, man. That's it. And to make this whole thing funnier is that Jordan Binnington lifted the puck out of play and got a delay of game penalty right before this. That gave the Hawks a 5-on-3. Tyler Bertuzzi had a goal waved off on a super, super quick whistle, which I thought was just hilarious. And then right after, it's Andrei Burakovsky to put the Hawks up 6-2. Bertuzzi got a game misconduct because he was complaining to the refs. Whatever. The Hawks are up 6-2. Burakovsky scored a little bit after. Anyways, I know Bertuzzi wanted the goal, but you get it. Anyways, Hawks would add one more goal, and, well, this thing's over. And to add to the hilarity of this entire situation, after the Hawks scored their 7th goal on Jordan Binnington with about 6 minutes to go, Jim Montgomery wants to pull Jordan Binnington. That's fair. They're down 5 goals, there's 6 minutes left. You don't want to risk injury for your starting goaltender? Back up, go ahead and get in there. But Jordan Binnington doesn't want to come off the ice, and Joel Hofer's nowhere to be found. But TNT finds Joel Hofer. It apparently looked like he was hiding in the Blues tunnel. I don't know why. I don't know what the reasoning was, but it just looks like he's hiding from Jim Montgomery because he doesn't want to play. That's what it gives off. He doesn't want to play in this game. He's too scared to go out there. And I think that is just pure comedy from this game and just is a perfect example of how badly the Chicago Blackhawks beat the St. Louis Blues. Blues would get a pity goal late in the game. Hawks win 7-3. And guess what? They're getting Connor Bedard back in the next game. This is amazing. This is awesome. And here's one final stat for this one. This is the second time the Hawks have dropped 7 or more goals on the Blues this season. It's the first time they do this against a single opponent in the same season since the mid-90s against the Vancouver Canucks. That's kind of funny. Hawks are beating up the Blues when they're playing them this season. I know that they did lose that game in December when Connor Bedard got hurt at the very end, and that was a bad one. But beating them up for 2 out of 3 games this season, I will 100% take that loss right there because that is hilarious to watch. Oh, that's just so bright. Holy cow. I had to do it, man. It was getting really dark, but I wanted to get through the Blues game. Lights got to come on, so let's go ahead and start talking about their next game, Connor Bedard's return against the Washington Capitals. And it was just terrible. The Hawks stunk in this game, in Connor Bedard's first game back. You could tell Connor Bedard's kind of getting back into his groove a little bit, but, they were bad in this game. And it was mainly because of the goaltending problem that this team now has. The Hawks have been dealing with a little bit of a flu bug, and it's hit the goaltending room. Arvid Soderblom and Spencer Knight are not good to go for this one, so the Hawks are going to call up Drew Commesso, the goaltender for the Rockford Ice Hogs, to come play in this one. And yeah, he played like a guy who is getting called up on short notice from the AHL. It was just a bad day all around for the team. They let up 3 goals in the first period. In the first period, the Hawks didn't look terrible in, but the Caps got 6 shots on net and they scored 3 times. And that's just not the start you're looking for if you're Drew Commesso. And he didn't really get any help from his offense either. The Hawks scored 1 time. It was Oliver Moore on the power play with a nice shot. But that was all that the Hawks were able to do offensively. I mean, seriously, the location of this shot from Oliver Moore is beautiful. And that was the only way they were able to beat Logan Thompson in this game. Logan Thompson stood on his head all night long. Hawks had no answers for him. Despite some of the good chances that they would draw up, Logan Thompson came through. They had one great chance in the first period that they couldn't get by him. It actually went behind Logan Thompson, but it's Sandin who jumps in front, slides down to avoid Andrei Burakovsky from poking it home. That was kind of the moment where I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be it's gonna be one of those games. Capitals get a dirty goal to go back up 3 goals later in the second period, and then Alex Ovechkin puts out the lights with about 6.5 left. Drew Commesso settled himself into the game a little bit. Some of those goals in the first period were pretty bad, especially that second one, which just went right through the 5-hole. But, he found a little bit of a rhythm as it went on, but the Hawks were in too much of a hole, and they could not score past Logan Thompson. This thing was not close at all. And so after this stinker of a performance, the Hawks have to go on the road to play the Nashville Predators. Oh, awesome. Yay. The Nashville Predators are not the definition of a juggernaut this season. They're not even that good this year. Neither are the Chicago Blackhawks right now. But the thing is, the Hawks just find a way to struggle against Nashville every year, it seems like. I don't know. It just does not feel like the Nashville Predators are a team that I ever go into a game feeling pretty confident in, regardless of how good Nashville is. And it feels like the team just cannot shake the first round playoff series loss they had nearly a decade ago at the hands of these Predators when the Hawks were the top seed in the West and the Predators snuck into the playoffs. So, I still really don't like the Nashville Predators because of that loss, because that is the last time the Hawks have been in the playoffs in a full 82-game season. And because Chicago got swept in that series against Nashville in 2017, if they don't make the playoffs this season, it will be a full decade since their last playoff win in a full 82-game season, because they got some postseason wins in the COVID-shortened season and the expanded playoff format in 2020. But outside of that, it's been a whole lot of nothing. And both goaltenders were making pretty nice saves for the first half of this game. But with the Hawks on the power play, closing in on the halfway point of the second period, Artem Levshunov, towards the tail end of this power play, almost fumbles the puck and has to exit the zone. He keeps it in, though, and just throws it down to the left wing corner. And, of course, the only guy who's there is Connor Bedard. And, man, I'm so glad to have Connor Bedard back because this play is just fabulous. The way that he's able to maneuver around the Predators' defense, get Saros away from the net, and then sitting right at the back door. Who is it going to be? Tyler Bertuzzi, 1-0 Chicago. Just a beautiful play from Connor Bedard to set it up. Tyler Bertuzzi's just there as the backboard to finish it off. Hawks go up 1-0, and that feels pretty big with how well these goaltenders have been playing here in this one. And look, with about 10 minutes to go in the game, Predators on the power play. There's about 30 seconds on said power play left. Luke Evangelista gets plenty of space to walk in and shoot, and Drew Comesso's being completely screened. Completely screened. Doesn't matter. Glove save. That was awesome. That was awesome. And that, to me, was a moment where I felt comfortable about the guy who was in net. Because sometimes with these goaltenders that get called up from the AHL that needs to start in a pinch, sometimes it doesn't go so well. And not just necessarily in Comesso's case where it comes in for one period and it sucks. No, it sucks for like the 3 or 4 games they're needed. No, Drew Commesso played out of his mind in this game. It wasn't like this was a game where Nashville only had like 18 shots of net. No, they had north of 30. And Drew Commesso had to make some nice saves. But it was shortly after, about a minute after that glove save, when the Hawks killed the penalty, Kevin Korchinski in the offensive zone. Oh, by the way, Kevin Korchinski got called up in the process as well. He sends it around the boards. Connor Bedard picks up in the right wing corner this time. He passes this right to the middle of the slot. And there is no one there for Nashville on their defense. It's like the parting of the Red Sea. And streaking in with a lot of momentum, Nick Lardis. 1 stride, 2 stride, snipe by Saros. 2-0 Chicago. Drew Commesso makes a couple nice saves towards the end of this game. Tyler Bertuzzi intercepts a pass with the goalie pulled. Gets it up to Ryan Green, who breaks about a 20-game goalless streak. Hawks win 3-0, and Drew Commesso gets a shutout. I gotta give it applause for Drew Commesso. That was phenomenal. And that game was going on during a Bears playoff game. So you're talking about this game finishing, and pretty much immediately after the Bears pull off their miraculous comeback against the hated Green Bay Packers. This was a great game for Chicago, and it was just another
part of a great day in Chicago sports, because at the same time, the Chicago Bulls beat the Dallas Mavericks, and Alex Bregman signed a 5-year, $175 million deal with the Chicago Cubs. Jed Hoyer made his big splash move of the offseason in the middle of a Bears playoff game, which they were getting, in that moment when the deal was announced, they were getting killed in. I mean, seriously, one of the great days for Chicago sports with what the Bears were able to do, just the significance of that win. Who knows what Alex Bregman's going to do for the Cubs, but if he does anything amazing, you'll look back on that in a positive light. And then to add on to it, Hawks and Bulls get wins. That was awesome. And finally, the Hawks get to play the Edmonton Oilers at home. They're playing their cream alternates. They haven't lost them this year. They would continue that with a 4-1 victory in Chicago. Drew Commesso, his duty is fulfilled. He gets to go back down to Rockford. Spencer Knight's healthy. He gets the start, and by God did they need him, because holy cow, the Oilers got grade A chance after grade A chance after grade A chance in the first period. The fact that game wasn't 3-0 at the end of the first is ridiculous. Spencer Knight was out of his mind, standing on his head, had to continuously make amazing saves against that Oilers offense. The 2 goals that Spencer Knight really let up were just dirty goals. One of them was a bank shot off of Vlasic and Hyman in front of the net. And another one, he didn't know where the puck was right at the beginning of the second period, and it went in. I think it was caught in his skate, and he ended up kicking it into his own net. It's just, hockey's weird like that. The Oilers didn't get a clean goal in this game. They didn't cleanly beat Spencer Knight. It was a weird deflection, it was always something weird happening where they were able to beat Spencer Knight. The Hawks offense could not beat Ingram, their goaltender. They could not beat the Edmonton defense. They were doing their job. It's just, Spencer Knight kept him in this game. He played great. Everyone else did not. I mean, seriously, the defense was so backed up that at one point, Artem Levshunov had a 5-minute shift. He played over 5 minutes in one shift. The NHL record is just over 6 minutes. I've never seen that in my life before. A hockey player having a 5-minute shift. That's malpractice. Get him off the ice at some point. You cannot be out there for 5 minutes. Hawks would finally score in the final frame, and because Spencer Knight was playing out of his mind, it was to make it a 1-goal game. Wyatt Kaiser with a shot that Ingram couldn't save cleanly, and Tyler Bertuzzi, guess what? Johnny on the spot like he's been so many times this year. Buries the rebound. It's 2-1. And then the Oilers have a goal called back as they declare it was Zach Hyman kicking it in. But then it didn't matter because they scored an empty netter, and then right after, Wyatt Kaiser with an awful turnover right in front of the net to lead to a 4th Edmonton goal. They win 4-1. And it's like, great, you fell apart right at the end to make it look worse, but like, that should have been the score. That's the weird thing. 4-1 should have been the score, but it shouldn't have been 4-1 like that. So at the end of the day, Spencer Knight plays a very nice game despite the 4-1 loss. And really was the only reason why the Hawks were in this thing, because the offense surely did not help. Spencer Knight, I think he's got potential to be a very good goaltender in the National Hockey League. And games like this are proof of that hope. But you want to see a little bit more consistency, because there have been a couple of games this season where Spencer Knight hasn't looked nearly as sharp, but then he'll make some great saves like he did in this one, or like he did against St. Louis. But at the end of the day, the defense needs to help him out a little bit more, because he does not need to be making that many big saves just to keep his team in it. Like, Artem Levshunov should not have to be out on the ice for 5 minutes straight. That's just the bottom line. And that's both execution and coaching. So, I don't know. That's not going to happen again. Like, I'm not too worried about that specifically, but that is a kind of an indicator of how this game went for the Chicago Blackhawks. Spencer Knight having to stand on his head. Artem Levshunov had to be out there at one point for 5 minutes in a row. It was just not the day that the Hawks were hoping for. And offensively, they got to get him some better support. Spencer Knight playing on his head just to keep you in this game. You would hope that a performance like that means that you win, not you lose by 3 goals. Because since Connor Bedard's return, the team has scored 5 goals. 4 goals with a goaltender in net. Connor Bedard had 2 great assists in Nashville. They got to find some more production going forward offensively. Going forward, the Hawks will continue to play at home. This game against Edmonton was the first of a 4-game homestand. Over the next week, they welcome the Calgary Flames, the Boston Bruins, and the Winnipeg Jets. So over the next week, we're going to be seeing Jonathan Toews return to the United Center and for the first time be an opponent to the Chicago Blackhawks in Chicago. It's going to be a very emotional night. It's going to be a remembrance of the great teams that were. And you hope that the Hawks are starting to build something with this young core of Bedard, Nazar, Knight, Levshunov, to an extent, guys like Lardis and Moore and Vlasic are included as well. You hope that that becomes the new core going forward. So yeah, that's all I've got. That's the end of the video. Hit the like button if you liked it. Hit the subscribe button if you really liked it and want to see more content from me. Keep the conversation going in the comments section below. Let me know what you think about the last week of Hawks hockey. How nice is it to have Connor Bedard back? And what do you think about Spencer Knight's most recent performance against the Oilers? Anyways, without further ado, I'll see you all in the next one.